Not doing that, so whatever. Time to restart game number 3. All right, guys, we're rehosting game number 3 here. In the top left, we have the Purple Terran, Tinkertonk. As we know, he is a random player, but he randomed Terran last time, and always says what his race is. So figured we'd just keep it consistent for this attempted rehost here. And in the bottom right, we have his opponent Fade. Fade's been having all sorts of lag problems apparently. Hopefully those clear up and we don't have any more technical issues going forward here. Daedalus Point. Quick review. I know you guys on the stream have already heard this. There's the point I was making about the massive ramp at the front. You can see here it's actually, I'd say, about... Okay, I'm a Protoss, I think, in terms of force fields. It's 2 force fields larger than a normal ramp at something like, say, Star Station. It's even bigger than that one. So, very difficult to fast expand wall off there against the Zerg. So, lucky for Fade, that's not what Tinkertonk randomed in the other game. It would be pretty difficult to deal with. I'm sure there's a way. Like Sethiel was saying, it's like Zolnaga on the old ladder map. You basically have to wall in a very specific way, hope you don't get Ling rushed, or you go for some really aggressive, fast, aggressive gateway style play, and hope you can make it work. But there's ways to deal with it. But this map is ridiculously new. It in fact just went up today, technically. The new ladder season just started, so I can understand how he might not have that whole worked out in his head just yet. Anyway, Scout making it into the main base from Tinkertonk here really does not want to get his SCV trapped like it did last time, which is why he's hanging out at the front here. In fact, he might just be waiting to see a cybernetic score goes down exactly when he expects it to, or he may actually attempt to block it with his SCV. Fade is looking at that SCV like, hey, what are you doing here? Tink's like, ha ha ha, I attack you now. Poke, 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 poke. So he's just annoying the Protoss as much as possible. Cybernetic score goes down this time, not sealing himself in. I can understand why he was going for the 4-gate last time. Those of you, by the way, on the YouTube VODs, you'd have to go over to Twitch and actually watch the recording there, if it's still there, if you want to see that lackey game that we had to rehost. Long story short, though, Fade did attempt to go for the 4-gate. Was scouted by a Reaper. Another one already being made back in Tinkertonk's base. Just going to make sure that doesn't happen a second time. Not to mention, there's still this SCV here, so if he tries to go for this, he's going to pick up on it. Second gas coming out a little bit late for Fade, but still within reasonable time. Reaper moving out the back. SCV unfortunately dies as Tinkertonk takes his attention away just for a moment to grab the Reaper and send it down. Fortunate fate of all workers not patrol routed around the base. They all tend to die that way. Factory coming up for Tinkertonk. Going a little bit quicker into the upper levels of the tech here. If he's going for more bio play, we're going to see probably a starport pretty soon after that. If he's going for more mech, which can be done against Protoss, it's kind of risky. 2 more gateways coming out. Still pretty standard from here. We don't really know what he's doing. It usually gets an expansion before now, but difficult to say. 4-gate. Okay, so this was his plan. And just like last time, the Reaper's going to be like, yeah, okay, I have a feeling I know what you're doing. So he's just going to get out of the base as fast as possible here. Has fallen back, I think, to another Reaper buddy, judging by the speed of that dot down there. I'm going to jump up there and try to get that complete scout off. Grabbing that starport as well as 2 tech labs. So the second tech lab is a bit interesting. It might try to be going for Banshees here. That would be one possibility. It'd be incredibly effective against a 4-gate if he can get it done in time. A command center may just be used to build some SCVs. Here we go. 2 Reapers running up into the base right now. Gonna jump right up here and see if they can get that scout off. They're gonna run. Nope. Okay, they're gonna run headlong into the stalker and just decide that's not a good idea. Now, Tinkertonk has seen 3 of the gateways. He doesn't know that this is a 4-gate, but he's highly suspicious of it. Seems to be playing as standard as possible, honestly. He isn't doing anything completely crazy yet. I mean, he's getting a siege tank. Siege tank could help a lot against this if this is in fact a 4-gate. Probe moving out across the map to try and get some position where he can get that probe out for some quick reinforcements. Now, one thing to note about 4 gates versus now versus then, aka back in the Wings of Liberty days, when you could project the pylon's energy field onto the high ground. That is no longer possible, which means trying to get the pylon up in your opponent's face isn't really anywhere near as necessary as it was in the past. So this Reaper's going to see a bunch of Stalkers moving across the map. He's going to be like, hey, there's 4 Stalkers. Ah! And this Reaper is just going to actually slip into the base. Seeing that 5th Stalker should be a good indication of what's up. Stims being researched, Marauders coming out. And the Stalkers are actually positioning themselves at the low ground. It's probably going to try and check for a expansion right there, try and pressure it. There isn't one. So the actual amount of damage that this can get done right now is pretty small. And what really he's going to be hoping for from here is if he can either trick Tinkertonk into going in the wrong tech route, get him with something like a DT, or go up at the Stargate, something like that, or get really, 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 really lucky with these Stalkers and attack when the army goes up for a drop. He really needs something like that to happen, because as long as the Terran stays shelled up in his base, he can get ahead in a number of ways, especially in tank. Siege tank out at the front does a lot of damage with Stalkers ripping their shields off immediately, and they're forced to fall back. He is getting Twilight Council now. This was actually a pure 4 gate, again, for anybody who's just joining us now. This Blink's going to be very late. I don't think it's actually going to do much. Already 2 siege tanks, 3rd siege tank. No, still a 2nd siege tank. He's just repositioned it. Producing a lot of Marauders behind this. A little bit of a risky play. If he was augmenting this with a Stargate, he'd have no real anti-air. But against this Stalker force, this is actually kind of the perfect composition. You'll notice max saturation from the Protoss. Very unusual when someone goes for a 4 gate. Usually they end up going to maybe 16 workers and leaving it at that. Maybe planning to go for an expand soon, but, you know, judging by the constant warpings of Stalkers, I think that's probably unlikely. Blink is just about to... it's getting researched up. It's about halfway done. He's picked up the bunker. You know, remember how I said before that there is one way that this can kill you? Yeah, that's if you go out for the drop and don't take care of the stuff at the front first. Looks like Tinkertonk's smart enough to know this, so he's moving his forces out to the front of his base. Scans forward, does see the Stalkers, but is... okay, he's just going to take a defensive position at the low ground, try and probably take this expansion. He's actually building a 3rd command center now? What? Alright, does he plan on double expanding? A little bit of a risk, but I guess can work. This may be honestly what the 4-gating player needs in this situation, especially now that he has Blink backing it up. Scan at the front, sees the Stalkers. Stalkers push back a little bit. Do a tiny bit of damage against the Marauders. They can't engage this force directly, but he, with the presence of those Stalkers, because, you know, really needs the power from the siege tanks ultimately to combat this as well as he possibly can, he's going to be able to deny this base for a bit, at least do some damage to it, force the Terran opponent to get away from his siege tanks in order to attack. And Fade is moving away. Oh, he's actually going to try and go for a Blink into the main base using the Mothership Core. The army is completely out of position for this. He think he did see it, thanks to that sensor tower. Actually, very good response from there. Tries to Blink forward, is only able to get a small number of Stalkers up there. There's no way that they're going to survive that. He needs to Blink them out as soon as they are capable, presuming they don't die in the first place. Goes, Blinks down to the low ground, tries to take out the siege tanks. 2 siege tanks do die. He's able to take out a few of the armed units as well on top of that. Really needs to be using these Blinks to keep his Stalkers alive as long as he possibly can. Here is actually, ooh, great Blink right there, keeping another one alive. But unfortunately, he's not able to do this with most of the Stalkers actually just losing them one after another. And I believe the Terran is going to hold this. It's going to be close, but I think he's got it. Secures his expansion. Back home, you can see the Protoss has done, well, pretty much nothing, actually. He's got 4 gateways as well as the Blink tech there, but no expansion behind this. It's going to be pretty difficult to hold. Mothership Core is now floated into the base and does see the extra command center, so he knows the possibility of the 3rd is there. In fact, he's seeing it lift off. Tinkertonk being extremely ballsy and saying, "Stop me. I dare you to stop me." And honestly, let's be real here. With losing that many Stalkers, he probably can do this. Worker count's now completely even, but that's going to change very quickly as soon as this 3rd base gets into play. Fade really needs Tinkertonk to make a huge mistake here. A massive mistake. Forget detection. I mean, you can see that he's going for a Dark Shrine. With all these orbitals, though, he has a lot of scans that he can use. Unless he throws down all of his mules at the worst possible time, it's going to be really, really difficult to catch up here. And in fact, you can see that Fade's not even going to try and get an expansion. He's just going to try and keep pushing. Losing that Mothership core is not going to help this at all. Ender's saying that he's throwing his 1,000 chips betting on the Tinkertonk. The floating command center, Tinkertonk's signature move. He's talking about when we play OBS games in the evenings. During the weekdays, Tinkertonk is known for getting into a massive base race against Zergs where they only have mutas, and he has Battlecruiser Raven floating around with the command center. Now, I wish I could not be this specific about this, but yes, this has happened more than once. So, always a fun time whenever Tinkertonk's playing. Once again, this is Game 3. Both players are tied 1-1. Really need... this is for all the chips on the table, not to mention big swell of Zealots running into the main base here, trying to get some damage done. The air is completely walled off, trying to attack the front here, but decent stutter step from Tinkertonk's keeping that at bay. Zealots are now moving into the main base. Looks like he's going to try and hold position micro those. Just attack. Oh, he's actually going to try and focus down the command center here. There's actually way too much DPS for the Terran, though, so that's going to go down. He drops all of his mules in front of the dying army, just as a bunch of DTs finished, and this is probably the only way he loses a bunch of workers. Uh-oh. He has actually just enough for... He's actually just going to have enough for a scan in a moment here, but he's going to lose some workers at the front here. In fact, he's trying to finish off his command center. He may be able to get this. There's a scan at the front here. He's trying to move his army back, but unfortunately, there's basically nothing here shooting at the DTs. No way. That scan may just run out. It does. Oh, but he does have another one. Okay, so he didn't use all of his mules. Tinkertonk was careful, and I completely misunderstood the situation. With that, I would say that Fade is pretty much dead. He's got no army. He's got 31 workers. He's almost mined out in his main base, and his opponent has 3 bases. He's like, I played really bad. And Tinkertonk's like, nah, I just scouted. Gotta say, his Terran is a lot better than I expected it to be. This must be his second best race, if I had to guess here. Random is not an easy thing to play, especially when you announce it to your opponent. You don't get any real advantage. You just have to study 9 matchups instead of 3. It's pretty tough stuff. Is it possible for Fade to make a comeback from here? Yes. Is it likely? No. It's very, very, very unlikely here. But, hey, it could happen. I gotta tell you, though, it's not gonna happen without some expansions. Fade's gonna need bases or he's gonna have no money soon. And, you know, 66 army supply versus 4 is definitely the kind of thing that makes a comeback very difficult. See that going for the expansion here. Looks like he's gonna try and hide another base in the bottom left. And Tinkertonk's being as defensive as a man can possibly be. He's got a couple DTs positioned at the end of this base here. That's not really going to do much, though. There is detection actually in the mineral line now. Trying to get anything he can done, and yeah, the DTs are just like, well, okay, never mind. I'm going to try and run away and not die now. And he barely almost makes the way. Scan comes down on top of the DT.